state in JS. All right, so today we'll be implementing 2 states in our JavaScript. We have the standing state and we have the jumping state. So I don't think we need to add anything for that. We have 2 of them. So if we go based upon the idea that we have just objects that are standing state and jumping state, I suppose jumping state has a entry point to it. So it needs to like actually have an internal state it tracks, right? Because when you begin jumping, it needs to know that you're, it needs to implement like that force at the very beginning. So if we take a look at the player, we have the jump command here. But in reality, I don't want to run the jump command. I want to implement the jump state. Like I want to just add the jump state to the player. Pollux, hola. Good morning, welcome to the stream. Let's see. So I have this command here, but really all I want to do is apply the force when we begin jumping. And then, I mean, I guess when we're in that state, when we land back on the ground, we want to switch over to the not jumping state, the standing state. So I think the standing state will be a little bit easier. I'm going to create a new folder for this because things are getting a little bit confusing in here. We have a lot of files. So let's put in our states into here. And we're going to do standing state.js. All right, so what is this going to be like? We're going to have const standing state. I think this can be just a plain object like this. And the reason for that is because there's not really any entry. If we're standing, we're not really doing anything. Like when we're jumping, we're like clearly in the air, we're doing something else. But when we're in the standing state, we can transition to the jumping state. And only when we're in the standing state can we. So it's at this point in time that this is when we can determine if we can jump. So we can have the input handler for this state. Was that how that worked? Let's go take a look at the examples again. Because it would, let's see, let's go back down, find the states. Okay, so a class for each state. Ooh, so the state has handle input and update. Okay, so if we have something like handle input and we have update like this. What? Not that. Update. So if we're in the standing state, we just need standing state. Our input is going to be the input. Now, what's interesting is that we already have this input handler that's going to return the commands. And so if there's, for example, okay, so if we do jump, it's going to return the command jump, which I think is just in the main game. Generate commands here. So return, so here's the jump command, which tells the actor to jump. So if I want to combine the command programming pattern with this state management pattern, do I want the state management outside of the player or inside of the player? Right now, it feels like this chapter was talking about, or I guess this chapter was talking about having like the states handle themselves, right? So if you're standing, you can transition to jumping. So the standing state can transition over. How's work going? Is it all remote? Oh, yep, we're still all in remote, although our company is starting to open up maximum 15 people in a building at the same time. But I do have some team members that are going to stay remote because of kids and other reasons. So I'm going to stay remote also for the time being. So 100% remote for me at this time. I don't really move. I do the stream, get up, stretch, then come back down, sit at this exact place, and then switch to work. How about you? Are you still remote, or is it opened up? Okay, so generate commands, semi-remote. Oh, you run an office? Okay, well, yeah, that could change things. I run a team, so very, very different. Okay, so generate. If we generate the commands, the jump command is then actor.jump. Wait, could this just be, instead of jump command, this switches to the state? Nope. Okay, I need to figure out how to get that not to run at this time of day. Or maybe just not turn off my computer overnight and let it run overnight. Or just uninstall that. I could do that too, I suppose. If I have the jump command, and I know it's like the classic antivirus pop-ups, the classic like just computers. I'm helping. It's like yeah. Go back to sleep. We're actor. Okay, so the jump command is running the actual jump. But if I say that the jump command switches. Okay, so if I have the input handler, instead of it running these commands like this, if it reaches into the actor and touches its state and then hands it what the input was, which would be something like, well, okay, it's jump, right? So our input handler here, so keybinds this. Okay, so we have handle input here. So we figure out if the game is running for let command name, and this command is pressing key. So it's going to figure out which of these it's going to press. I don't think that the input handler should run this can we run command. I think it should figure out what these are, and then it should reach in and handle, like, pass the input into the states. Okay, so it is pressing key. for is key code down. Right, to figure out, okay, so if we're figuring out the jump, if we don't do this, can we run command? If is pressing key and can we run command? Well, we don't want to necessarily do this. So what if we don't even have this if statement? What if we return the commands that we're pressing the key codes down for, and that's it? So we just return these commit. We just add the commands that we're pressing down for this. We return them. Okay, so that goes back to game.js. And here is the commands. Are we doing this in multiple places? Because we have this in an if statement. I don't see it here. There we have input handler, but we're not getting the commands. Yeah, okay, so we're not necessarily carrying. Only right here is where we're getting the commands for this. Commands for each command. And then we're passing, we're passing command and we're getting the player. So maybe instead of calling a command, we call the game state. It's like input handler figures out what we're trying to press. And maybe we could even have some globals, like jump button. That might be good too, because like then we have the input handler, and it returns. It's going to return what we globally understand. So it's going to return like the word jump, the word restart game. I think that's okay. So commands that push this dot commands. Oh, it returns the full commands function, like a reference to the function, which then we can call. And the reference to these functions are generated here. So we return this function. It's like an array of these functions, which then we can call and run. But if I don't want to be able to jump, except if we're in the standing state, at this point, I want to reach into the game state the actor state. So if I do something like this, actor.state dot handle input, and I put in like the word jump, the string jump. Okay, so we want you to jump. In restart game, it just does this. So now in our standing state, Okay, so input handler should, I think, be relatively the same. All we're not checking to see if we can run it at this point in time, which might. Can we run? I might want to like just put everything back in here. If we don't change this, we leave you all the same. All we're doing is we're changing the jump command to reach into the actor state. So that would be the player. We now have to track state in the player. So now we're going to say this dot state equals our initial state is going to be that standing state, right? So it's going to be, well, I guess, this standing state. So we know that this is a global being global. We can pass that in. So we can do initial state equals standing state and initial state there. Now, what that means is we need to pull this in so that way it can find it. So we're going to go to our index.html. It has to be before the player. Okay, so states, standing states. Now we're going to have our handle input, which this jump command is going to call, is going to pass in this string. So I guess it's going to be like the command. Oh, and we need the actor. So we need the command and the actor. And here we can say if the command is equal to jump, and we're in the standing state, then we want to like switch to the new jump state. Okay, so switch to jump state. Now, if we don't have the command jump, we just want to stay standing, so we don't return anything. I mean, we could recursively return a standing state, which that might be a little bit interesting. If I do that, I return standing state. Oh, and comma there to make you happy. Are you okay? You're not upset about this. This is going to return a reference to this entire object. This object doesn't really change. It's just holding this state. And there's nothing that we're doing in update here, so I don't even need an update. Okay, so if I do this, do I return a standing state, or do I tell the actor what state it's going to be in? Because I think, how did that work for switching states? Delegate to the state. Oh, okay, I see. So our actor handle input so we don't have a handle input on our actors, on the player. So if we have a handle input on there, okay, then the command would pass in to the actor would pass that into the state. We then call the state to update. And so I think these are a static state. This is a static state that I'm mostly worrying about, like dealing with. Okay, so if I have a handle input on here, so this is going to be essentially the command. And then I want to pass this into the state, right? So I want to be able to do this.state.handle input, pass in the command and this. And that's it. But we need to know when to change the state. So we can get the new state off of here. So const new state equals this.state.handle input. If I return null, there is no new state. Or it doesn't matter, because I can just say this.state equals this. Handle input is going to return, or a standing state is going to return itself if we don't switch over to it. So I should continue standing at this point in time. Okay, so our command here, our jump command, we actually do get the actor here. So we're going to do actor.handle input, hand it the string jump. That goes into the player, handle input, gets the string jump. It then goes and tells the state to handle input, passes what the command in, and passes instance to itself. The standing state catches the actor and the command here. It checks, so this is where I check to see, hey, are you the jump command? If you are the jump command, we're going to return a different state. Otherwise, we're going to return a reference to ourselves, which should be pretty free, because returning a reference is almost nothing. We're not creating like a new object here. We're just returning another pointer to where that object is. And then we stay in that state every single frame unless we're jumping. Okay. If I run this, everything should still run exactly the same. And what's nice is I can't jump anymore, because this is happening. So if I console.log trying to jump, let's see if we get this when I hit space. Yeah, okay, so we're getting trying to jump. So that's really awesome. So if the command is jump, trying to jump. So this is like the first part of this. Now we need that second state. So inside of states here, we're going to do jumping state. Let's go ahead and add this in here. No, I didn't want you to follow the link. I'm going to go to states, jumping state. I'm going to go to jumping state here. For this one, we're going to have an entry to it, right? So as soon as we begin jumping, we apply that force. But after that, it's like the update method is all we're really going to care about. I don't necessarily want the standing state to have to know how the jumping state works, besides that it's an object. So I can, if I want to make it exactly the same for all of them, well, let's go with this first, and then I'll make it consistent later. So if we do this with a class, jumping state, we're going to have a constructor. So the constructor will be our entry method. As soon as we begin, this is the first thing we do. And so in our jumping state, we have our constructor. We're going to take in the actor. And that's pretty much it. Like when we first switch to jumping state, I don't really care about what the input is. And so we're just going to have our actor. For this actor, the first thing I want to do is just apply the jumping force to it. So if we go back to player, here's our jump force, is this create vector. So if I remove you, put you over into here. So this dot jump force equals create vector. I don't even need to do this. I can just do const. We'll create the jump force at the sort of like the beginning, whenever the jumping state is set up. I could also make this a global variable if I feel like I want to not have this happen very often. Then I want to apply this force to the actor. So it's going to be actor dot apply force jump force. And that's it. So when we first begin jumping, we apply this force. Do we even need handle input at this point in time? I mean, we do, because we need to build a, when we click jump, if we're jumping, we just don't want to do anything at all. So we're going to have a handle input that's going to have the command and the actor, but we don't really need to do anything. Ooh, right. So the handle input, we return what we're like, what it is that we're doing here. So we can return this if we're still jumping. And we return the other state if we're no longer jumping. Okay, so we need to know, well, the player has some of these methods, right? We have hit ground. So if this location at y plus this at height is greater than ground location, this location y equals ground location minus this at height. You know, I kind of feel that this can be abstracted away now into this state. Because what we want to do here is, there are no commands that we can run while we are jumping, because we have two states, right? We have jump. Well, we have one command for the player. We have jump. That's it. We can't jump while we're jumping, so we're going to ignore the command completely. I guess in Rust I would do something like put a underscore in front of it, which makes this interesting. that VS Code understands that and doesn't make it sort of grayed out anymore because I'm not using it. That's nice. So we're going to ignore the command, but for the actor, we're going to want to know what's going on with this. Are we still in a jumping state, or do we need to switch over? We know if we're not in a jumping state because we're slightly below ground. If our momentum is down, is it possible that this will, like, what order will this happen in? We create the constructor, and then we update, and then we handle the input. I don't know. I wonder if the order is going to come into be a problem for this. Maybe we could just wait until that becomes a problem. So let's move this this logic here. So hit ground. We essentially want to move all of you into here. So instead of this, we're going to do, so if actor.location.y plus the actor.height is greater than, so if I just do height, like that's just the bottom of this. Okay, so if we're now slightly below ground, now we're going to reset the actor position. So actor location.y equals ground location. So that's going to be height minus actor.height. The actor.velocity.y. So reset our y velocity. And also actor is jumping equals false. Well, this is actually interesting here because is jumping is the entire jumping state. What I want to do now is return the standing state. So I want to return, I think it's just in global, right? So standing state, like that. Now, if we don't do this, then we're going to return this. So we don't need hit ground anymore. Okay, that's nice. This should make it so we can jump, and then we need the update. If we're in the jumping state, jumping state is the only time that we want the y velocity to be affecting us. So that'll be interesting too. So where is it? It's right here. Okay, don't need the comma, so we have update. And this is going to be just the actor. We have the jump force, so we need the gravity. We need the gravity here. Is gravity a global, or is it being passed in? Because we have updates, this dot velocity, this dot acceleration. Where is gravity? In our main game, oh, I think that's in the world. Because we have run. This is where we're creating the trees. And that's it. So what else do we have? Okay, we have the game, we have the player. We have these globals. You know what's missing? A jumping dinosaur. Yes, that I mean, I could definitely do that. Although I'm using Firefox, so I think it would be a jumping fox, right? I can maybe make it like that logo, have be like rolling along and then jump. That would be cool. I need to be good at art so I can draw that, or at least find those like sprites somewhere. Okay, so I don't think it's in world. Where? Okay, so in the game, if the game state is running, okay, here it is. Game state, get gravity. So game state, oh, like a Sonic's roll, but a fox. Yeah, I think the just a fox. We can't do tails because then that's copyrighted material. But we can do just a fox. And it's not Mozilla's fox, it just happens to be a fox. Inspired by. Let's see. We have that game state. In game state, we have gravity. So here's the gravity. If I want the gravity to be just a complete and total global, I remove it from here. The only thing affected by, so then things affected by gravity will be affected by gravity depending upon what state they're in. I think that's what we're realizing here. So if I remove that, get gravity doesn't need to happen anymore. Is there anything else in here with gravity? Nothing else in here with gravity. So in our main game, we're gonna do let gravity. I know we're creating a global for this, which does feel a little bit bad, but at the same time, I mean, I suppose I could reach out as game state is a global and get the gravity with that. Hey, I told you no. I suppose I could do that. I could leave game state as the global and I'll reach directly into game state from here. Okay, so if I undo you, game state, you go back. And we have our get gravity. In our jumping state, we're going to reach out, grab gravity from here. So const gravity equals game state dot get gravity. That will get us the gravity. And then I want to apply that. Okay, so then actor dot apply force and pass it the gravity. So I really could just do this all in one line here. Like that. We're going, so in update, hey actor, this is when you get gravity applied to you, not any other time. So if you're in a standing state, you're just standing there. You don't need to worry about gravity. And is there anything else we need to do to the player? Not really. If it's jumping, it's always getting gravity applied to it. As soon as it hits down, we switch over to the standing state, and therefore gravity is no longer being applied to it. Now we're in a standing state and we can jump. Okay, so if I do this, does this now work? No, we have an error. Okay, so game state get player dot hit ground is not a function. Ooh, right. Okay, so game state is now trying to run some things which it no longer needs to run. So game state get player dot hit ground. Where is that? So game state that get player dot hit ground. Oh wait, that's in the main game. Huh. Oh right, because it's okay, it's passing in the ground height. So if we remove you, we no longer need to apply gravity to you either. Tree, you are console logging. We don't need that. Okay, that's much better. No crazy amounts of console logs. Although like P5.js is console logging like crazy. I guess I'm not passing in a proper color, but it's still working. So that's interesting. Now, okay, so now I need to make sure that we're running this, right? Because we're not running the update function. Because we're checking like the jump stuff. Trying to jump. Oh, interesting. That's because our initial state, our initial state is standing. Because I forgot, we start way up here in the top of the screen. Our initial state needs to be jumping. What if we had 3 states? Falling, jumping, and standing. Falling, gravity applies to us. And then we can transition from falling to standing, from standing to jumping, and then it's a circle. I think that could work. And that would mean, okay, well, if I say our initial state is jumping state, before I go and do that, let's go back into our player and our constructor. So our initial state is actually a new jumping state. I don't know if I can even pass in this. I don't know if that works. Can't access property add. This dot acceleration is undefined. So in player.js line 32, so this dot acceleration is undefined. Right, because I did this new jumping state, and when I pass in this, it's trying to give it, well, if I don't even have an initial state here, if I do our initial state here, like our initial state is new jumping state, pass it this. I think this works with JavaScript. Wait, what happened to our player? Oh, look, it just jumps up forever. That's cool. It's gone. Is that because gravity is not being applied to it? Because I'm not updating. So in our update, this dot state dot update and this. Game state dot get gravity is not a function. Okay, so that's in game state here. Not game state. In jumping state, it's not a function here. It's a getter, so it's just get gravity. Okay, so you fall all the way through the floor. What's your... this.state.update is not a function. Wait, in our standing... right. Oh, because we had switched over. So I need an update function. So I do need an update function for it to like handle stuff, but at least not throw an error. Okay, so it's trying to jump. We need to reset its location. So in jumping state, actor location.y equals height minus actor height minus essentially like the floor height. So if I just put a magic number in here right now for 5, save that. You see, like when we jump, it sort of kind of comes up there. So if the actor.location.y plus actor.height is greater than the entire height of the playgrounds, minus 5, I think, which is the floor height. Trying to jump, if I do something like 10. What do we care about that? What happens? No, okay. So it's still weirdness where it's like catching the floor and staying, like sticking to it. And I kind of want to, like, I guess put all of this stuff inside of here. Like, do we even need an apply force or anything else like that? Or can I just put all the physics inside of the state? I don't know. The book was almost suggesting that we could. We could just do the math right there for moving the actor around. Okay, so we have update for actor to apply force, game state that get gravity. That's only when we're in the jumping state. Return to the standing state. I think that's because we're now below the screen. And that's why we're now like trying to jump. But if I put a console log in here, so if actor location.y plus the actor height, so that's the bottom of the actor, if that is greater than height minus like whatever the floor is, so if the bottom of the actor is like down below, like here, for example, then actor location.y, set that equal to height minus the actor height minus 10. I mean, even if I do like something like 25, let's just go farther up. Set the actor velocity dot y to 0. But then the big thing is returning the standing state. That just falls to the floor and it's gone forever. Right, because this is in handle input. We need to put this in update. In update, we'll do this if statement. That's what we've got to do. Handle input, Okay, so if I move you into here, so update actor.apply force. So we're going to apply the force. Then we're going to check to see if we're below the floor. If we are below the floor, we're going to return the standing state. Otherwise, we're going to turn this. Okay. Handle input. There are no inputs, right? If we're jumping, there's nothing that we can do. So we don't really care. So this one, there's nothing we can do for this. For the standing state, our input, if we're trying to jump, we want to switch to the jump state. I mean, I suppose I could reach in and mutate actor and just say, hey, actor, your state is now the jump state. And instead of returning the state like this, I now say, okay, we don't try to jump. We say actor.state equals new jumping state, like that. And our update is empty because we're not doing anything with that. In jumping state, we then say actor.state equals standing state. Otherwise, nothing changes. And then in the player, so state, this has state to update this, okay? And then we have our handle input. We don't reset this.state anymore. We say, okay, this.state to handle input, pass it in the command, and pass it in this. If we do this, that was interesting. And then I try to jump. Can't access property, apply force, actor is undefined in jumping state. So everything just sort of got screwed. Screwy with that. Because we have this.state that update this. Wait. Right. The jumping state requires an initial value, doesn't it? It requires the actor, right? So in standing state, we have the actor. So I pass it in there. Now that's really interesting that it starts sinking, like it hits there and then it sinks down below. Where else are we applying gravity? Not you. You. Actually, I just want to find gravity. So in game state, we have gravity. An observer why does observer, oh wait, that's the playground? I don't care about the playground. And then in jumping state, we have apply the force gravity. What is applying the force to that? We must not be resetting the velocity properly. So in jumping state, we apply this force, which is gravity, which affects the y. Actor.velocity.y is set to 0 if our height is greater than this, and then we transition into a standing state. Player, if I remove apply force? Like if we don't even need this anymore. And because in a way, I do like the fact that I can just apply a force inside of jump and just say like, hey, we've applied this like initial force for us that goes up. But it almost feels like we're left with something very like a very subtle down force. When we reset, let's see. In standing state, we're not doing anything with update here. Player. In update. Okay, this dot velocity dot add acceleration. Oh, is our acceleration still set to something? No, because every update acceleration should be set to 0. It's like whatever that was, it gets reset. So velocity must still be a thing. If I console log this. Okay, console this dot velocity dot y. That's what we care about. And I hit U. It's 1 still. So gravity is still being applied to it. So in our jumping state, actor.velocity.y set to 0, it's almost as if that's not really affected. This seems to be reset here. How often does this run for us? Switching to standing. I mean, I saw it very briefly. If I run the debugger statement, this will halt code execution when we get here. Okay, so it halts us right there. I hit play, and we just sink down. So that's interesting. So it is running this only once, which is kind of what we were expecting to happen. So we are switching to the standing state as soon as we're here. And I suppose I think that was interesting. When we hit the ground, I think our velocity did go to 0 and then it reset to down again. Is there somewhere else that we're resetting, like we're setting that velocity, or are we applying a force? Let's see what I can find for apply force. So we have this dot apply force, the jump force. I don't need you anymore, I don't believe. Okay, so we have apply force, the method, and in jumping state, we apply the force. That's the only time that force is being applied. It's still happening, so it's clearly still, something is still resetting our initial velocity down. Where is that? So we have this dot initial location, this dot reset. Okay, well that just sets a velocity to nothing at all. It also sets this dot jumping to be true. We don't need this dot jumping anymore. Where did I put that? Console log player.js, line 25. So here's this velocity.y. So in update, we add acceleration to the velocity. Acceleration should be nothing. Let's actually just put a debugger here and we could watch acceleration over time. So in our debugger, let's watch expressions, this dot acceleration. Y is -10. Just to begin with right here. But if I hit play a bunch of times, what are you? You are F8. So Y is 1. Y is 0 at this point in time. 0. Okay, we're syncing. Y is still 0. So acceleration isn't the problem. So we're adding essentially a Y of 0 to velocity. Velocity is 1. So velocity is being reset somewhere. Where is that being touched? We have velocity here, we have velocity here, we have velocity here. We don't think it's apply force because we don't see that being run for the player anywhere else in the code base. We have update. Where, if I do a find all for velocity, in obstacle, okay, that's just checking if we're jumping over the player. Hey Chantilly, good morning. So this location dot add velocity, but that's for the obstacle. Reset is just resetting this to 0. Tree shouldn't be doing anything for us. It's like the trunk location and that stuff. The world. And then actor.velocity.y is equal to 0 in the jumping state. Yeah, why is the velocity for the actor 0? Or suddenly becoming 1 again? We go back to the player, we go to this update here. I put our debugger in. This dot acceleration. I think what I can do is this dot velocity dot y. So that shows us 1. So if I hit refresh, okay, so we can see it sort of changing. Wait, What happened? Velocity is, okay, so this velocity at y is 0. We're going up. So that's our initial jumping state. We head down to 0, and now we're going down. So gravity is affecting it, and it's increasing in speed. It hits here, and our velocity is now 0. The fun of state management. Yeah, exactly. And in the next frame, it gets set to 1. So it successfully gets set to 0, but at some point in time, our velocity is being reset to 1. Where is that being set? Because we have to apply force, which takes in a force. And I think I already searched for this, right? Where apply force is being used. It's in this entire code, only in 3 places where it's defined, where apply force is defined. The jump force, which is in the jumping state. In fact, these are the only 3 places it's defined: in the state for jump and here. I will find out for velocity. That's what I thought I did too, but we'll try that. So then I'm not doing anything silly here, right? So if update, if the actor apply force, so this is the jump force. And we have actor.apply the force, that's the jump force. We're not doing anything with handle input. Apply force, game state at gravity. Okay, so this is happening one final time, and then it's never being reset. I need to check to see if it's above the ground first. So we need to say something like, if maybe an else. So if we're below the ground, we switch to standing state. Otherwise, apply gravity. Let's go back to player, and let's remove that debugger statement. All right, let's see if this did it. Hey, take a look at that. Okay, so now we're gonna go back into, we can go into our game state. That was the problem. I was logic in my jump state. So if I get like the floor location, or like the floor height, that could be what it is. This dot floor height equals, I think it's 5. So get floor height, return this dot floor height. I think that might actually cause a problem, so let's do get floor height. Now inside of our jumping state, both you and you will now be game state dot get floor height, like that. And so now you're down, and the entire jumping thing works. And if I turn back on in the game, where are we? I forget where I'm not listening. Either not listening to the command. Oh, was that in world or game state? Yes, I'm not listening to the observer. And so if I do this, game over, but I can still play. Okay, so then everything is still working. So we have our two states here. So what I did, we added in two files, which is states. We have the jumping state and the standing state. Standing state is a simple object. It basically is just checking to see if our command is jump, then we're going to jump. And jumping, it updates the player based upon what it's supposed to be happening. And it is also the one that checks to see if we're now below the ground. If we are, it switches over to the standing state. And I think that's good. I think the only other thing that we changed here is in game, we figure out what our commands are, and then we just call input handler on the player. And that's it. Anyways, it is after time for me to stop streaming, so I've got to go and get ready for stand up and do the rest of my day. I hope that you had a great day yourself. With that, I'm gonna leave you all. You can follow me here on Twitch and Twitter for when I go living or any other notifications. I generally am streaming every single weekday morning at around 7 a.m. Mountain Time to 8:15 or so Mountain Time. And I think that's all I have. Tomorrow we're going to do this pattern, the game state pattern, into the Rust Infinite Runner. And we'll see how that goes. It's a very different language, so if you're not familiar with Rust and you want to learn some more, definitely stop by. It's a lot of fun. And so with that, I'm going to switch over to the ending screen, and I shall see you all next time.